Hi everybody, my name is John Clayton. Welcome to my beginner jazz tips. All the tips are meant to be adapted to fit your needs and your situation. So I hope you enjoy what we have to share with you. Let's talk about the bass. The bass. Let's talk about instrument size. That's always an important thing to consider. Basically, we're looking for an instrument that fits our body size and shape. Doesn't make a lot of sense to be playing an instrument that's so huge that you can't even get your hands around it and control it. So, and we're talking ideal world, right? I realize that sometimes we don't have a choice, but let's just pretend that we do. So we're really looking for that instrument that fits you. One of the things that we look for, if we could choose, is an instrument that doesn't have really high shoulders. My bass actually has what they call violin corners, and it's shaped almost like a violin would be shaped. If I could remodel this, I might slope the shoulders more, and so there are a lot of instruments with more sloped shoulders instead of coming out like mine does. I love my bass, and I found ways to get around it, and thank goodness I have long arms, and that kind of helps. But basically, I'm looking for an instrument with shoulders that I can get around in case I want to not only play in this register of the bass, but if I want to go, we call that up, even though it's going down. If I want to go into the upper register, then I want to have the chance to do that based on how my bass is shaped and how I am standing at the instrument. So that has to do with shoulder size, right? And speaking of standing with the bass, how do you do that? What are the considerations? When you stand at the bass, you'll often see people standing on the side of the bass like this, right? So they kind of stand like that. And then you'll see other people who stand really behind it, almost as if they're playing a cello, right? So you see that. What do I usually recommend? I say split the difference. So rather than stand on the side of the bass, which frankly may feel a little bit natural when you first do it, but it's going to really eventually cause issues with your left hand. And also when you want to get into this register, there are even more issues. We won't get into all that now, but just trust me. Experiment with not standing exactly behind the bass, not exactly on the side, but split the difference. And you take a half a step back, so the bass isn't pointing straight up like this, but instead you take a step back and let the bass rest on you at an angle. The importance there is that you will then have more fingerboard access. If I had the bass pointing straight up, and even though the end pin, the bottom of my instrument, is kind of on its highest peg, let's say. So my bass right now is high if I hold it straight up like this. But if you have it instead tilted, now I can access the fingerboard. With it straight up, I can go this far, right? I can go this far. If I want to play in this register, now I got to do that thing. And I promise you, your back will die. So we want to make sure that instead of having the bass pointing straight up, we angle it. And now look, now that the bass is angled, I can go all the way here without killing my back. It does mean, and this, we're looking for that perfect world, right? It does mean that your body is now absorbing weight. When the bass is straight up, then you don't have that weight against your thumb. Now that we've chosen to angle it, we have weight against our body and a bit on our thumb too. That's something you can get used to, and when you practice, you'll figure out ways to maneuver that. So the bass height, so anyway, that's splitting the difference, right? So I'm not going to stand on the side, I'm not going to stand exactly. I'm going to split the difference, kind of experiment. Experimenting is something that I always do. I strongly recommend that, really important. The next bit has to do with the bass height. How tall should the bass really be? That is determined, ladies and gentlemen, by the right hand. So if my bass is much lower to the ground, when I start touching it and get ready to play, I have to shift my whole posture in order to play the instrument. Instead of doing that, we stand up comfortably straight and raise the bass to accommodate our natural, comfortable posture, right? So a bass that's too low, you're asking for back problems because you're going to have to bow it, you're going to have to pluck it, and it's way down here. If a bass is higher and it feels like it's too high to reach way up there, then that's an indication that we have to experiment with taking that step back and finding the positioning that allows us to play here as well as here, etc. Right? So if I'm standing straight up, now it's like, oh gosh, I can't reach that note. Take a half step back, boom, now you can play this note easily, much more easily. So fingerboard access is a really, really important thing. The other thing that we want to talk about briefly is how do you control the instrument? Because sometimes it spins around and what do I do? Basically, every time you touch the instrument, you're controlling it. If you touch it here, you're controlling it that much. If you touch it with your stomach, you're controlling it that much. You touch it here, that much more. Here, that much more. Every time you touch it, you're controlling it. We've basically boiled it down to the three essential places to have contact with the instrument. The left hand is one of them, because you're going to be playing with your left hand. Your stomach is crucial. The bass is touching the stomach 100% of the time. The third thing that we figured out is the right hand, because you have to get the string to vibrate, right? You're not going to get it to vibrate by blowing on it. So your right hand, whether you're holding it to pluck it or whether you're using the bow, somehow you are contacting the string with your right hand to get it to vibrate. Those are the three crucial places: left hand, stomach, right hand. And once you figure that out, you can kind of experiment and move around and see, there's that word again, experiment, see what feels more or less good, and it will allow you to move forward with playing the instrument. The last and most important thing is your posture. Basically, I want to feel the freedom and comfort of standing the way I normally stand, and then I want to bring that bass to me and let it adjust to my posture. I'm going to have to reach around here and do all this stuff anyway. I don't also want to change my posture if I don't have to. Hi there. Now I'd like to talk about some basic things in regards to playing the bass, of course. One of the things that doesn't get talked about a lot is the fact that we have to sing and play what we sing. Sing and play what you sing. The music is not in the bass. I always tell my students, the bass just happens to be the best instrument on the planet. The music is in you. And if you want the music to, this is kind of like the amplifier for the music that's inside of you. If you want that music to come out clearly through the bass, it has to be clear in your body. The barometer that we use to make sure that that's the case is singing. So we have to sing and play what we sing. And that's even if we're looking at written notes. Those notes on the page are to remind us of the sounds that we have to get in our body. And then of course we play that and it comes out through the bass. What happens if you don't do that? You run the risk of just, that's garbage, that's nothing. You know, I'm just putting my fingers on the bass. Hope I get lucky today. Na, 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 na. Nothing, right? So everything that comes out of the bass has to come from us. The rule is if you can't sing it, you can't play it. You may get lucky sometimes, but if you can't sing it, you can't play it. That's everything. Whether I'm playing scales, it's in us. It's not in the bass. So that's something that will require some patience on your part, because we're so used to just like looking at notes and kind of fingering around. No. We got to change that now. Sing and play what you sing. Every time you play the bass, not usually, often, mostly, no. Every time you play the bass, you're playing scales. So if scales are kicking us in the butt, we need to do scales. We got to learn all of our major scales and all of our minor scales. I prefer the harmonic minor scales, and focus on those. Learn all of it, and it's in every key. If you're only used to playing a couple of octaves, start there. One octave, start there. But we've got to, and however you want to do it, if you want to do it chromatically, etc. Sure, go ahead. If you want to do it around the cycle, you can do that. Etc. All right? If you only can do one octave, that's fine. Expand it to 2, expand it to 3. Scales are absolutely crucial. The other thing that we've got to make sure that we have a handle on are all the chord types. So that would include major triads, minor triads, dominant 7th chords, minor 7th chords. I'll just demonstrate them in C. All of your minor triads. All of your major triads. And then the minor triads. All of your dominant 7th chords. Your minor 7th chords. Your major 7th chords. Your minor chords with a major 7. Your major 6th chords. Minor 6th chords, your augmented 7th chords, your diminished 7th chords, and we learn them in all keys, right? That's crucial. That's so important. So you're armed with your scales, you're armed with your chords. Now when you get ready to play with a group, you've got all those basic things that aren't going to throw you. You're singing and playing what you're singing. You're on the road to have more and more fun with the bass. The other thing that you're going to run into are the different song forms and tunes that you're going to have to play. Blues is going to be a big part of that. I suggest finding recordings that show the kinds of blues walking bass lines that you're going to play. When you play walking bass lines, in most cases, you want to play all of your notes very long so that each note blends as much as possible to the next. For instance, if I'm playing a blues in B flat, it might sound like this. I'll play all of my notes really long, keep my fingers close to the strings, all the stuff we talked about. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. yes, I did get a bit more involved as I went on, but I started as simple as I could in order to establish the groove, right? And then the more you learn, the more you want to experiment and try different things. Notice that I was keeping my right arm nice and quiet when I was playing. You can go back and check that out. I try not to use more energy than is necessary. One of my goals is maximum music, minimum effort. So minimum effort, maximum music. That's the vibe. One of the things that we have to deal with often is how do you get a natural sound with an amplifier? I suggest that you're by yourself, right? You got your amplifier, you got your bass. Just pick something that you want to play. It could be a blues, it could be a scale in 2 octaves, and just see what it sounds like when you play that with the amplifier off, right? Then you turn the amplifier up to 1/2 and you do the same thing, right? Then you turn the amplifier off again, the volume down. Then you play it again. Then you turn the amplifier up to 1 and you play it again. And you just keep doing this in small increments and making sure that you're always going back to a natural sound, an unamplified sound as your reference. And if you need to make treble or bass adjustments on your amplifier to get it to sound as natural as possible, you do so. So that's, I think, one of the more useful ways, successful ways to get a more natural sound out of the amplifier. There is going to be a volume at which, forget about it. It's just going to be a different animal in terms of the quality of sound you're getting from the amplifier. But starting that way will allow you to discover a lot about your sound through the amp. The other thing to remember is that you always want to blend with the group. We don't want, as bass players armed with our amplifiers, to override anybody in the group. We're not more important than anybody else in the group. We're together as a team to create this beautiful sound. So it's important to find the volume that blends. It may mean sometimes that you don't hear every single note the way you would like to, or the way you do in your practice room by yourself, right? But when you listen to the entire band, then you've got a nice blend. And of course, if you were to stop playing, everybody's going to go, oh, what happened? My heart stopped, right? So we do hear you, we do feel you, but it's really important to blend your sound with the band. The last thing I want to mention is it's really important that you have a great connection in terms of the groove, in terms of the time, in terms of the feel with the drums. Obviously with the entire band, but it really starts, if you're playing a swing feel, right? If you're playing that kind of a groove, the drummer is going to, in most cases, be playing those quarter notes with you. If your quarter notes don't match up, we can all go home. So that is crucial. So connect your groove with the drums. Like I said, obviously with everybody, but make sure that that is the first thing that happens in terms of the groove. So I hope these ideas and tips and guides have helped you. Thanks.